Thank you, Chairman Tonko. Look, Mr. McKinley, I like you, and I'm trying not to be partisan here. And I know you started out talking about being bipartisan, but the bottom line is if you're going to continue to say that somehow Trump did a better job at cleanup than Obama, then I'm going to have to respond to that and simply say that it is not true. Okay. I would totally disagree that more was done under Trump than under Obama, or to suggest, which maybe you're not, but it sounded like you were suggesting that most of the sites are cleaned up. I assure you they are not. I can take you, talking about visits, you're going to go to West Virginia. I'll certainly take you to a site in my district in Old Bridge that is not cleaned up. And basically nothing happened towards its cleanup under President Trump. Trump did not make it happen, but I'd rather get back to what we can do together. But I do have to emphatically start out by saying that it is simply not the case that Trump did more than Obama. And to denigrate Lisa Jackson and Gina McCarthy, who were the EPA administrators, and say that they didn't do anything, that is simply not true. Lisa Jackson, when she became the administrator under Obama, prioritized Superfund cleanups. And I went with her to sites that had been delisted, literally taken off the list, and hadn't been cleaned up, and that we had to go back and relist them, okay? So, and the problem here also is the level of cleanup, right? In other words, you could just take a site off the list and say it's been cleaned up, and it hasn't been. Or you can decide to pave it over with asphalt and not remove the material underneath, and that's not cleanup. But the bottom line is we really need to have, we can't rely on general revenue, because the list of sites that don't get cleaned up and the type of cleanups that are ineffective get longer unless you have a pot of money like the Superfund to actually do the cleanup instead of relying on taxpayers and general revenue. When you rely on general revenue, you don't have a Superfund tax. That means that the taxpayers are using their money from their income tax to clean up these sites. And that's not right. It's the oil and chemical industry that should pay this tax so that we have a fund to clean up these sites and not rely on the average taxpayer to do it. I just think it's wrong. So let me go back, Mr. Chairman. I have to shorten I guess I'll have to introduce my opening statement into the record because it's too long now since I've used up this time. But let me try to, if I could ask unanimous consent to include it in the record. But let me just try to summarize part of it. I wanted to say that there are provisions in the Clean Future Act that aim to address these sites and cleaning up these most vulnerable sites and prevent new contamination. And these substantive provisions in the Clean Future Act complement President Biden's efforts to invest in Superfund cleanups. The American Jobs Plan, which he talked about a few weeks ago, includes a proposal to restore payments from polluters into the Superfund Trust Zone Fund so that polluting industries help fairly cover the cost of cleanups. And that's a $5 billion investment, if you will, in the remediation and redevelopment of both brownfields and Superfund sites, as well as workforce development investments to turn these properties into economic growth and job creation. Now, I just wanted to say for many years, I've introduced a bill, the Superfund Polluter Pays Act, which would reauthorize the original Superfund fees and make polluters, not taxpayers, pay the cost of cleaning up these sites. And I think the taxpayers have been footing the bill to clean up polluters' messes for far too long. Reinstating the Superfund tax will reestablish the polluter pays principle of the law, reduce pressures on the budget, and lead to faster cleanups of these toxic and dangerous sites. And reinstating this polluter pays tax has to be part of any conversation we have in Congress about Superfund. The bottom line is that the Superfund program is an essential tool, and then one that we should use as much as possible in order to fight climate change, promote equity, and restore the American economy. And there are many communities around these Superfund sites and potentially dangerous industrial facilities that I think the people in these environmental justice communities should have some peace of mind that these contaminated sites are being cleaned up and that polluters are paying for the work and that we're actively trying to protect their health. Let me just say, a lot of these sites are near are what we call environmental justice communities, and it's just not fair that the people don't have these sites cleaned up. They have not been cleaned up. So with that, I'll yield back, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for having this very important hearing.